and welcome. It's good to have you with us. You're watching Tigray television English program live from Magala. I'm Lalan Techano with today's news. Now I'll proceed to the details. The government of Tigray issued a statement on Tuesday marking the victory of Adwa. The government said that the victory represented the resilience of the people of Tigray in the face of overwhelming forces. The statement called the Victory of Atwa a culmination of an almost decade-long battle with foreign invaders, including the battles of Sahati, Dogoali, Karan, and Matamma earlier to the Battle of Adwa. The statement said that the Battle of Adwa is a great indicator that perseverance and unities are much more powerful than artilleries. The Victory of Adwa, according to the statement, opened an important chapter for black people across the world. The statement also said that the Ethiopian government does not have the moral high ground to mark this historic occasion of African history as it continues to starve and kill an African people. Eider Comprehensive Specialist Hospital is the largest health facility in the region and one of the best healthcare providers in the country. But for months now, the hospital has not had access to basic supplies as its remaining stock of medication has completely run out. Health professionals at the hospital were forced to reuse basic supplies such as gloves as patients continue to die due to lack of medication and proper medical treatment. On Monday, the hospital was able to receive some medical supplies from the World Health Organization, but health professionals say the supplies they have received are far short of what is needed to address the medical emergency on the ground. For more, Aragawi Gabramika reports.
Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital received medical supplies from the World Health Organization on Monday. Dr. Kibrom Gebrselassie, the chief medical director at the hospital, said that while the medical supplies received would have value in reducing human suffering, it would make up just 5 to 4% of much supplies at the hospital.
Demand we requested was a lot. It was full list of drugs and reagents. Today we have received up to 5% of our demand from WHO. This means a lot. It's a lot help for us. It includes gloves, fluids, IV fluids, antibiotics. So this will be helpful for the next 1 month. So we request additional supply from donors, from NGOs, so that we will be fully functional.
Dr. Kibrom also added that supplies failed to include vital medications for patients suffering from HIV or cancer patients.
And the supplies that we receive today, it lacks one important program drugs like ART for HIV patients. Cancer drugs are also missing, so these patients are in great need. They are in big problem. So the next time we request WHO to send us more supply and the missing items as well.
Dr. Kibrom also highlighted that the hospital is in dire need of basic supplies such as fuel that are essential to run ambulances and other vehicles at the hospital. The doctor also explained that the hospital is only able to provide meals once a day for its patients as it's running out of another basic supply, food.
4 to 5% of the drugs is now made, but we need food for patients. We need fuel for ambulances. Because of lack of fuel, we couldn't even transport the drugs and supply from airport to this hospital. It has stayed there a long time because of lack of fuel. Today we managed to bring this. And for our ambulances, as well as other trucks, we need fuel. We are not getting it, so we are in big problem. Pregnant mothers, delivering mothers, they cannot come to this hospital on truck. They are coming, on horse carts or carried by somebody. So this is a big problem to the hospital. The second is about food. The food shortage that we are facing is significant. Children, after admission to the hospital, they are losing weight instead of gaining. They can come with malnutrition or with other illness, so they are losing their weight in the hospital. We are able to feed once a day now, but after next week, we will not be able to feed even that once a day. So the help should be comprehensive. like the drugs, we need fuel, we need food as well.
Dr. Kibram expresses his gratitude to the World Health Organization for its donation, but said the hospital would need further support to address the need of the man in need.
We thank WHO for the donations that they made today, and we ask for more. We are demanding hospital, we are asking always, and WHO, since September, this is the first shipment that we get, and we need more drugs, food and fuel. So thank you WHO for the donation.
The World Health Organization had announced last month that over 3.9 million Tigrayans are in dire need of medical assistance, as millions more are facing famine-like conditions.
Magala University has announced that it has assembled a team of experts to investigate and document alleged human rights violations in the ongoing conflict in Tigray. The experts say that while there have been wide-ranging reports of violations of international humanitarian law by both local and international human rights groups and media, their reports fall short of indicating the magnitude of violations and may even fail to meet international standards. For more, Aragawi Gabramaka reports again.
Mekelle University Human Rights Center announced on Monday that it has established a research committee to investigate and document alleged human rights violations in Tigray. The committee has been tasked with the responsibility of conducting a comprehensive investigation into alleged human rights violations to help draw a complete picture of the scale and the magnitude of atrocities committed in Tigray.
Today's workshop is about the launching program of the research project on the documentation and investigation of alleged human rights and humanitarian law violations during the Tigray war. As you know, we have been informed by different media networks, different UN and other international organizations, local medias, local NGOs, and individuals that during this 1 year and a half, almost 1 year and a half period of time, a lot of human rights atrocities has been committed, has been reported, and so far we don't have a formal, standardized, professionally organized research report on that will tell us the scale, the magnitude, the nature, and the actors of all the human rights violations that has been reported. Therefore, what Mekelle University Human Rights Center has initiated is to conduct a comprehensive study on the alleged human rights violations, and through these compilations and documentation and the investigation, then we will have a document. The first thing is the deliverable is the first thing is to have that a document that gives us a full picture, a comprehensive picture of what exactly happened, when, where, on whom, by whom. All these questions will be answered.
Out Hailesgi, director of the Mekelle University Human Rights Center, said that while there are reports and documents available regarding atrocities in Tigray, he believes they fall far short of drawing a comprehensive picture of what exactly unfolded in Tigray.
Since the beginning of the war in Tigray, I think we have heard different media reports and different international organizations, aid workers have tried to publish atrocities, killings, gender-based violence, and disappearance, torture through their outlets, different outlets. We know this, but what is missing, we believe, is that these reports are not comprehensive, sometimes methodologically flawed, may not be scientific, couldn't meet the minimum standard of documentation and investigation. So having this in mind, the center took the initiative to collaborate with stakeholders, particularly universities in Tigray, human rights experts, humanitarian law experts, criminal lawyers, and undertake a more comprehensive and scientific investigation and documentation of the alleged crimes.
Dr. Fana also discusses the state of Mekelle University today, saying once one of the best higher institutions in the country, Mekelle University is now at a near standstill with the suspension of its budget by the Ethiopian government.
As you might know, Maqala University is one of the leading universities in the country. It's, we are celebrating our 30 years of establishment. And all these 30 years, the contribution of the university to the economic development, peace and democracy of the country has been very much significant. It was a leading university. We have quite a lot of alumni, a lot of staff, like 8,000 of staffs in Maqala University without the temporary or contract staff. And the contribution is very huge. It is significant, it is recognizable. But now, starting from June, the university has been crippled because our budget has been suspended and we are not able to make payments of salary to our staff. 8,000 university staff is still in problem. We don't have the economic capacity to, alleviate the problem that we are facing. Just like any other communities, the whole siege thing is affecting us. It's not only that the university, by definition, a university, an academic institution, has to communicate with the international academic community. And since we don't have the internet access, the telephone, all communication means for that matter, then all our communication is cut off with the international world. And because of that, we have lost a lot of partnership projects that were supposed to be, conducted as usual.
But the president says university staff has continued to serve their community, remaining active amid personal hardships resulting from the ongoing siege that has discontinued all basic services into the region, including banking and telecom.
Against all odds, still our professionals, our academicians in the university staff, they are still trying to do whatever it is possible to them. Like I said, we don't have any salary payments for the last 8 months. We don't have the communication. We don't have the transportation system. Everything is crippled. But still, the commitment is there. The sense of serving your people, the sense of serving your people professionally is still there. Therefore, we are doing our best under the circumstance. There are a lot of projects still that can be done, that are being done for that matter, by our staff in Maqala University. You can find a lot of projects that are being undertaken by professionals, for example, in the agriculture department, where they are sensitizing the public to work on self-sufficiency. And we have a lot of professionals working on socio-psychological healings. We have a lot of staff working on the research activities.
In a statement issued on Monday, Tigray External Affairs Office has said that Afar regional authorities have turned back 28 trucks bringing much-needed humanitarian aid to Tigray. The office called on the international community for failing to take decisive action to compel the Ethiopian government to take necessary action to ensure unfettered humanitarian access into Tigray, and said more should be done to prevent a catastrophic humanitarian situation. Abil Tsagabu has this report.
In a statement issued on Monday, Tigray External Affairs Office has announced that 28 trucks belonging to the World Food Programme were turned back by Afar regional authorities despite having all the necessary clearance from relevant federal agencies. The statement highlighted that just 6% of badly needed aid has reached Tigray since July 2021. The office also condemned the international community for its failure to exert sufficient pressure on the region to allow unhindered humanitarian access into Tigray. The statement noted that even though the Afar regional authorities have been aggressively complicit in the obstruction of humanitarian aid, the ultimate responsibility for hampering humanitarian operations should be laid at the feet of Abiy's regime, with clear and evidence indicating that the regime in Addis has been hostile to aid agencies operating in Tigray, including the expulsion of high-level UN officials engaged in humanitarian work. The office also said that, although limited, the WHO, ICRC and other partners have delivered vital medical supplies as well as food via UN humanitarian flight, but they are not able to dispatch and distribute the limited medical and food items available due to severe shortage of fuel, as no fuel has entered Tigray since early August. The statement finally stated that the government of Tigray assures the international community of its commitment to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches those most in need. It is to be recalled that no humanitarian convoy have entered Tigray since mid-December, while over 6 million people remain in dire need of humanitarian assistance.
The presence of Eritrean forces in Tigray has been marked by deliberate and systematic attack on private as well as public property. Eritrean troops have deliberately looted and vandalized factories, schools, and medical facilities across the state. Our reporters visited Addis pharmaceutical factory in the town of Adwa, where residents say Eritrean soldiers looted and destroyed the factory in the early days of the conflict. Abraha Gabertensay has more on that.
When Eritrean soldiers captured Adigrat town following the war that broke out in Tigray last year, they would loot and vandalize every private and public properties based in the town. They have completely destroyed Addis Pharmaceutical Factory, a joint venture company of indigenous company known as Effort and England origin company called 54 Companies, which had been manufacturing more than 91 high-quality pharmaceutical products of different therapeutic categories as reported in 2016. The soldiers from Eritrea have also killed 6 individuals who were self-organized to safeguard the factory from robbery. According to Haile Gebረ Michael, CEO of the factory, 5 of them were workers of the factory.
Five employees of our factory and 1 resident of Adigrat town who are guarding the factory, trying to protect it from robbers, have been shot dead by Eritrean soldiers. The soldiers also killed one of the factory's employee at his own home. The soldiers from Eritrea spared nothing in the factory. They looted everything they could and destroyed everything they couldn't using the dynamite.
Employees at Addis Pharmaceutical Factory have also witnessed the killing of 6 individuals, including 5 factory workers who were in charge of safeguarding the factory from robbery, and the looting and destruction of the factory as follows.
As a matter of chance, I was one of those who volunteered to safeguard the factory from being robbed. My elder brother named Hagos Yemane was in charge of the factory when 6 Eritrean soldiers came at 10:30 p.m. and took 10 individuals, including my brother. They took them to Ndaslase, a place around where the town's university is located. The soldiers killed 6 of them, while 4 of them miraculously survived.
Our factory is totally destroyed. Eritrean soldiers would loot as much as they can carry and destroy the rest of it using dynamite. The factory has encountered a great deal of destruction. The soldiers also brutally murdered 6 people who were watching the factory.
The destruction of Addis Pharmaceutical Factory translates to the suspension of more than 75% of medical supply to the total demand in Ethiopia. The company has been manufacturing more than 91 high-quality pharmaceutical products of different therapeutic categories, including antibiotics, gastrointestinal drugs, central nervous system drugs, cardiovascular drugs, anti-diabetic agents, antihistamines, and anti-allergic, anti-limintic, analgesics, anti-protozoal respiratory drugs, dermatological and minerals and vitamins, and large volume parenteral in various dosages and forms. All of these pharmaceutical products are now unavailable, and more than 6 million Tigrayans are suffering from lack of medication, not to mention the lack elsewhere.
As a result of the 8-month-long blockade on medical supplies, food aid, and other essential items, millions in Tigray have been left on the brink. A study by the Office of Early Warning and Response and partner organizations has revealed that more than 6.5 million people in Tigray are in urgent need of humanitarian aid. Salome Taghlai has this report.
An 8-month-long occupation of Tigray, characterized by a deliberate and systematic attack on public institutions and private property, in addition to an 8-month-long siege on the region that has depleted food stocks while denying food aid and medical supplies to the region, has culminated in an entirely man-made humanitarian catastrophe that has taken millions to the brink. Director for the Office of Early Warning and Response says that there are over 6.5 million people in Tigray in dire need of humanitarian assistance.
The situation could deteriorate further as the number of displaced persons in the region has only continued to increase, as many continue to be displaced from Afar and Amhara. Many who were previously self-sufficient have now become dependent on aid. Data from our office indicates that there are now 6.53 people in urgent need of food assistance.
The director also said that the Ethiopian government was using outdated data to ensure that aid organizations and donors are not able to get a clear picture of the magnitude of the humanitarian crisis on the ground.
The Ethiopian government is using data collected 14 years ago to say the population in Tigray is 5.6 million people, while we have over 6.5 million people in Tigray who are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance. This is being used as a weapon of war to underestimate the number of people in urgent assistance. This outdated data by the Central Statistics Agency from what is unfolding on the ground, including persons displaced from other parts of Ethiopia. Tigray is home to over 9 million people and 6.5 million are in urgent need of aid.
According to Gabriel Xavier, the blockade has endangered the life and well-being of 90% of the population in Tigray and has had an unimaginable human impact.
Since no humanitarian aid has reached Tigray from March of 2021 and 2022, the people of Tigray have run out of everything. This has left 90% of Tigrayans dependent on food aid. More than 600,000 hectares of land has gone unseeded. Of the 1.3 million hectares of land that was supposed to be planted, only 700,000 could be. The rest was left uncultivated. This means that only 54% of farmland in Tigray was put to use.
Gabriel Xavier emphasized that just 7% of much needed aid has reached Tigray since June 2021.
Less than 7% of much needed aid has reached Tigray between June and December 2021. If we look at the period between December and now, which is 74 days or 2 months and 14 days, no aid trucks carrying aid have reached that region. The amount of medication that has reached Tigray through humanitarian airlift is less than 2% of what is required on the ground.
The director finally called on the United Nations and other international organizations to do their part to avert the humanitarian catastrophe.
The international community and donors should understand the severity of the situation on the ground and do more than express their concern. The UN and other international organizations should take action to save the life of millions.
The Victory of Atwa is an important milestone in African history. It has demonstrated that colonization could and would be defeated through solidarity of African people. While Adwa remains to be a monumental moment in history, our reporter Seblo Rama asked what Pan-Africanism means in the 21st century and the role of the African people to lift each other up. Seblo Rama has more on that.
Born in 1827 at Manau, a village in Tambin, Ras Alula Ngida was a popular general and politician who has led multiple battles to defend Ethiopian dignity. Alula was the son of a peasant Ngida Aqba and obviously of a humble origin. During this time, it was almost impossible for the son of a peasant to climb up the ladder of power in aristocratic Ethiopia, where power was inherited and ascribed. Entirely destitute of wealth, the son of a peasant, no hereditary rights or family prestige, Alula's talent was why he would reach the upper rank of the social ladder. The rise of Alula to such a position was unique and was by itself most significant in relation to many important developments in the history of Ethiopia. In his early 20s, Alula had already received the blessing of the Jazmach Kasa Mercha, future Emperor Yohannes of Ethiopia. Emperor Yohannes' rise to power was met with turmoil when an effort to expand their territory, Egyptians and the Mahadist Eastern Sudan state would invade Ethiopia. Emperor Yohannes, along with his general Alula, were the ones destined to defend Ethiopia from those forces. His bold and heroic leadership in the Battle of Gundeta in November 1875 and Gura in March of 1876, where he routed Egyptians, would earn him the rank of Ras, just below Nugus or king at the age of 35.
نأزازي كفل موقع أبي أونتاوي قد خمسلو كينات تمهارو لي لا حسو أنا.
He learned and took initiatives and attacked the generals first. He would always try to surprise the enemy on the battleground. When you look at the later battles of Gundet and Gura, he repeatedly used this tactic. The first battle was finished within 30 minutes. The emperor didn't arrive at the battleground because he attacked them at night, while the troops were asleep, and when the emperor finally arrived, there was no battle left to be fought.
Professor Glaudius Araya, Professor of History and Political Science at Africana Studies at Laham College of the City University of New York, in his book Alula Abanega, Ethiopian and African Hero, wrote that soon after Gura, Yohannes appointed Alula as a governor of Mereb Milash and Midri Bahri, present-day Eritrea. Alula settled in Asmara in 1876 with his followers and his army. He constructed his palace on a hilly top in the heart of Asmara between what was formerly known as Commissariat Hamasin and Club Hamasin, Asmara Sporting Club, and thus began the foundation of a city that would later become the capital of Eritrea. The so-called Adwa or Hiwati Treaty of 1884, concluded between Ethiopia and Britain, recognized Bogos, the current area, and Metsuwa as parts of Ethiopia Empire. But in violation of this treaty, the Italians had begun settling down on the Red Sea coast. Alula's prime agenda was to guarantee Ethiopian sovereignty. After the inevitable confrontation of Italians in December 1886, Alula reorganized his troops and took Dog Ali, where his forces would clearly exhibited military superiority over the Italians. On January 1887, the famous Battle of Dog Ali took place.
ኣብ ሰሓጢ ንወገን ባፅዕ ወሪዶም ውግእ ክገብሩ ከለዉ ጣላይን ኣብ ምሽግ እዮም ኣትዮም ነይሮም።
When Allah went to Sahati, Italians were in Mishik. He would attack several times to break the trenches at high cost, but he suddenly came up with a different idea. He assumed that due to the magnitude of the attack, the Italians would inevitably call for help. And he was right, because the Italians sent a telegram that said they needed help. 500 soldiers were sent to support the Italians. Alula awaited those soldiers in Dog Ali, a place in between Sahati and Masawa, and attacked them at night. The battle didn't last longer than 30 to 40 minutes.
Ethiopians encircled the Italian army led by Major Barotti, and during the height of the battle, the chief coordinator, Colonel Tommaso Di Cristoforo, was killed along with other 22 elite officers and 400 troops. Though the Italians were defeated at Dog Ali, Alula would never rest. By 1888, the Italians seemed to have recovered and had indeed planned to hit back. On March 1887, the Battle of Metemma took place on the western frontier of Ethiopia, and this will dramatically alter the politics of the Horn. Emperor Yohannes was wounded and beheaded by the dervish. A couple of months after Metemma, Minilik would become emperor. The Italians occupied Asmara, and they concluded the Treaty of Wuchale with Minilik. Few months later, they formally declared Eritrea as their first African colony. All of a sudden, the great Alula became a lonesome political figure. Alula would become devastated. Not only had he lost his beloved emperor, but had been forced to witness his enemies, the Italians, consolidating power in Eritrea. In the early 1890s, the Italians have further expanded their colonial territory as a prelude to their ambition to occupy Ethiopia. Following the Treaty of Wuchale, which had endangered Ethiopian autonomy altogether, Emperor Minilik would decide to march on the Italian to the north. The Battle of Adwa would take months of preparation and armies from across Ethiopia to lead a strong resistance against the Italian colonizers. After months of conflict in different parts of Tigray, including Mba'alaja and Maqala, the Italian and Ethiopian army would have their final battle in Adwa on March 2, 1896. Before the clash with the Italians would begin, in the extreme left of the Ethiopian position were Alula's forces that occupied the height of Adi Abuna, and they were supported by the troops of Emperor Minilik. In the middle of the battle, Ras Mikael's troops went to reinforce Ras Alula, who had already begun fighting General Dabor Mida, who was outnumbered 5-1 by the gallant Ethiopian fighters. Moreover, the Oromo cavalry also reinforced Ras Alula, and Alula was able to effectively block the expected Italian reinforcement from Adikwala. Ras Alula and the rest of Ethiopian generals have proven to the entire world the resolve and invincibility of Ethiopians, and Alula was overjoyed by the significant victory scored at Adwa by himself and by his fellow countrymen. Ras Alula would die just 11 months later in a battle with Ras Halgos of Temben. Although Alula would be victorious in the battle, he would die of an inflicted wound in February of 1897. Alula's story was that of legends, the story of a peasant's son who would make it to the palace of power in the most improbable times and play an important role in one of the most decisive battles in history.
Apologies, our viewers. The previously presented news report was not presented by Seblo Orklema, but rather Winta Kirana, and I'll be reading the news again. As we mark the 126th anniversary of the Adwa victory, we look back at the life and legacy of Alula Banaka. Alula Banaka was born to a peasant family and raised in Tembin, central Tigray, but would earn the title of Ras only below Nugus or King. But this wouldn't be his most impressive victory. Almost a decade before the Battle of Adwa, Alula would score 2 consecutive victories against the Italians and leave an important mark in African history. And with this, we wrap up our English Bulletin News for today. Bye for now.